Very good. We'd like to welcome you to our meeting of the Buchanan Community Schools Board of Education. I know that we had a snow day. However, even with snow days, business continues on. So I'd like to also share some more information here that all of our regular meetings have been posted on our district website, in our central office, and in each district school building. Tonight's agenda has been posted on our website and emailed out to the Board of Education. And our school board members do receive the agenda and all supporting documents for the reports and action items several days prior to the scheduled meetings. And so board members can review the documents provided, prepare questions and comments so that we all may fully participate in the discussions and vote and the votes that encompass the duties of our office here. This meeting is a meeting of the Board of Education of Public for the purposes of conducting the district's business and is not to be considered a public community meeting. There is a time for regular participation for the public during the meeting as indicated in item G of the agenda. And if you wish to make presentations to the board, there is a Google form to fill out located on the district website before item G on the agenda. The forms open for comment at the beginning of the meeting and is turned off once we get through the public comment section. You may also call in to the meeting to speak by calling the number 856-471-7098 and provide that PIN number there of 710-807-918. And of course, the board will announce when we are ready for public comment and make sure that you please unmute yourself at that particular time. And of course, we thank you for your support of our Buchanan Community Schools. And with that said, may we go ahead and have roll call.
Hello, Mr. Lee.
Here.
Miss Berry.
Here.
Mr. Carlson.
Here.
Miss Lesh here. Dr. Carlin.
Here.
Miss Ryder.
Here.
And Dr. Burnett.
Here. All right, moving on to agenda item C, the adoption of the agenda. May I have a motion, please?
I make a motion that the Buchanan Board of Education adopt the agenda for the board meeting of February 16th, 2021 be adopted as written.
Support.
All right, let's go ahead with roll call, please.
Mr. Lee.
Yes.
Miss Berry.
Yes. Sorry, forgot to mute.
Okay. Mr. Carlson.
Yes.
Miss Lesh, yes. Dr. Carlin.
Yes.
Miss Ryder.
Yes.
And Dr. Burnett.
Yes. All
7
right.
yeses. Motion has been adopted.
Very good. Moving on to agenda item D, recognition of visitors. And Mrs. Robinson, yeah, I can't see all these people on here, but any special visitors with us tonight, Mrs. Robinson?
We do have Dr. Dunn here. He is going to give a presentation a little bit in a few minutes on our agenda. So,
okay, very good. We're glad to have you with us and participating. All those who are out there in live streaming world, since this is kind of the way of the future. Well, actually, the way of the future, actually, even after COVID's gone. So, but anyway. Moving on to agenda item E, superintendent and department reports. Go ahead, Ms. Robinson, and we'll start off with the Buck Staff Appreciation winner.
yes, our winner this month is Mr. Brandon Flowers. He is our counselor at the high school. We'll have Secretary Lesh actually read the nomination form for him. I do want to just say special congratulations to all of those who were nominated. And then also, Brandon Flowers, who also holds a special place in my heart as he is working with my dear son. So good luck to him on that one. So, all right.
So the letter, I'm just going to read the part that was submitted for him. It says, Mr. Flowers has been a tremendous asset to the Buchanan High School. His incredible care and concern for students guides him in his direction or his decisions as he always works towards what is best for his students. Brandon has run the guidance office on his own, servicing all grade levels while Miss Barlow has been absent. He has worked tirelessly to ensure that students' needs are met, paperwork is complete, teachers are supported, and parents are contacted. He doesn't shy away from a challenge, and he is always willing to lead a helping hand. I admire his passion for kids and his dedication to our BHS family. Then there was another submitted. Brandon goes above and beyond to help ensure that students he works with feel understood and supported. He is always willing to step in and assist when I come across a behavioral problem with a student that is clearly a manifestation of bigger issues in the student's life. Brandon is an invaluable asset to the district, his coworkers and students at Buchanan High School. We'd like to congratulate him. And then I always like reading all of the nominees. There were some really good ones. There's a ton this month. And it's very nice to read those. Just very positive. So Al Burgett is Operations Director Interim. Bobby Kaufman, BHS Operations Utility Staff. Brianna Curtis, Buchanan High School Operations Utility Staff. Brian Pearson, BHS Interventionist. Carly Miller, Buchanan Community Schools for Food Service and Copy Central Dispatch. Chad Vandebeek, Buchanan Community Schools Maintenance. Cody Kaufman, Buchanan High School Operations Utility Staff. Dawn Spiegelman, Buchanan High School Operations Utility Staff. Jennifer Fiaro, Buchanan Middle School Administrative Assistant. Judy Heckathorn, Buchanan Community Schools Food Service. Maggie Padnos, Ottawa Speech and Language Pathologist. Malhan Williams, Buchanan Community Schools Transportation Supervisor. Paula Grove, Ottawa Paraprofessional. Sandy Emmerich, Ottawa Interventionist. And Wendy Murphy, Ottawa Literacy Coach. Congratulations to everybody that was nominated and to Mr. Flowers, who was the winner for this month.
All right. Very good. Congratulations to you all. Again, it reflects the spirit and commitment that all of our staff members have to our students and to the school district. So congratulations. All right. Moving on. Board updates. And Mrs. Robinson, any further on the board updates?
Just that I know each month our building principals and all of our department leads submit the board updates to you. There's lots of good information in there. There's right now this month there is information about NWEA data, SAT data as it relates to particular buildings, and then also there is a highlight in there from the middle school group about honor rollees. So just wanted to make sure that everybody in the community knew that those updates are given to our board monthly.
I did want to say that reading all those, I appreciate them. I love seeing the scores. I love seeing PLCs explained. They're very helpful. I loved Ms. Falkenstein explained the audit process and then why we do what we do, which was very helpful. And then the middle school, I was going to say I think it was 65% in honor roll, which was huge to me. So I just want to say kudos to the kids that got the honor roll. So, and thank you. There's always a lot of information, but we do appreciate reading it. I know that it helps.
All right. Very good. Moving on to item F, I think that is presentations. And I think, Ms. Robinson, you're going to have Dr. Dunn.
Yes.
Give us a presentation.
Yes. Our Dr. Dunn gets to share some really good information about his building this month and promote and just brag. This is their time to brag about all the positive things that they're doing either in their department or at their building. And then once he finishes, we'll have updates from our executive team, and they're all listed in our agenda, starting with Phil, Mr. Brigette, Trish Laurie, and then Mark Curlin. So, Dr. Dunn?
Well, thank you. I'm going to go ahead and present my screen here. All right, everyone able to see the presentation? If someone could give me a vocal on that, that would be great.
Yes.
Yes, go, go, go.
So tonight I thought I would take the opportunity to give you an update at Moccasin based on NWEA data analysis. And we look at NWEA because, of course, it's not only just a state mandate, but it's a normative test that's given across the United States. So it's a good measure for all the schools to kind of benchmark against, to kind of see where we're at and where we're going and what we need to do. So as you are well aware, we have a learning loss because of COVID, and within NWEA, they're noting that the test scores of about 4.4 million students, and that's in grades 3 through 8, had a significant loss overall in math, and they kind of started where they needed to be in reading. And then in math, they've seen that the actual fall, that gap, is about 5 and 10 percentage points behind their same grade level peers from last year, which is, it's pretty huge. What's kind of remarkable is that reading has stayed about the same, and that data is the national data. So I want you to take a moment and think about that nationally, that math is behind, reading is about where it was. And then I want you to smile because you're going to see some great stuff. So when we look at Moccasin and we think about where we were and where we're going, so this is cohorted. So we look at the kids who were in second grade last year who are now third graders, and we look at the third graders last year who are now fourth graders. So when we left right at the beginning of the pandemic, we had already done some NWEA testing for the middle of the year. And what we know to be true is that before we left, in second grade, our kids were about 50% either at or above grade level, which is not bad when you think about poverty and all the other pieces that we deal with. That's about right with the research. Still a lot to deal with, still a lot to, close, but we're at 50%. Coming in to this year, our second graders, who are now third graders, came in at 58% at or above grade level, which again goes to what the research is saying, but even better. And then currently, in case you're interested, our second graders, who are now third graders this year, they're at 64% either at or above grade level. So we're doing phenomenally well. In third to fourth grade, they left right before the pandemic at 54% at or above. And they came in this year as fourth graders having about 62% at or above grade level. And currently we're at 66%. So we're going to start to plateau somewhere around 70 is my prognostication. And I'll take that. You can ask me later why we can take that. With math, as it said, there was a gap and there was a loss. So last year, second graders ended right before at 54% at or above. And we came in this year at 42% at grade level. That's a huge loss. And then third to fourth, they ended at 57. And then you can see the 10% loss. However, we didn't just, take that on the chin. We said, we're going to do even better. So currently, our kids in third grade are at 55% at or above grade level, and fourth grade is at 59% at or above grade level. And something I want you to consider, where our kids in third grade right now at 55%, they left last year, so they were about 57% at this right about this point in time. So when we look at this in second grade, third grade, and fourth grade, where we're at right now compared to where we were right before the pandemic, we're actually right about where we left off. And so that's phenomenal work done by the teachers. That they get all the credit, but that is phenomenal work to think that. To say we perhaps have closed the gap, and I won't say we've closed the gap, what we've done is we've stopped the bleeding, and we're ready to continue to move forward where we would have left off. So when we start thinking about why and how, we think about root cause. Well, when you think about reading, it is easier to teach reading at home. Everyone can do it. Where you think about Common Core math, it's very hard for parents because it's based on some pretty tough concepts because we're asking them to do it in different ways. And although I may not agree, and some of you may not agree as well, we're always trying to get our kids to critically think. So it's hard for parents because they're teaching math the way they know versus what Common Core would like us to look at. Reading is an integral subject. I can teach reading in anything. I can teach you in science and social studies. I can pull up a newspaper. I can do it on the website. I can do it through a variety of means. And of course, there's a variety of resources parents have when you think about reading. They can pick up anything, have students read and ask the basic questions. What did you read about? You know, where does this take place? Whereas math is very finite, it builds conceptually, and let's be honest, some people are really good at math and some people aren't. And so without having some of that basic educational ease, so to speak, it's just hard to teach. Some of the other pieces of why we're closing the gap and why we're doing so well, as you have heard, we brought on PLCs in full force last year, and we're continuing to build on that, and that work is what's driving the success. We set data goals, and every year we ask for a higher, greater percentage, so we keep moving the bar up. And we're just keep refining those reading and math interventions. They're 4 to 5 days a week with about 30 minutes each. And they're very focused. They're based on research. They're small group, 5 to 7 kids in a group. They're flexible, so they're always every 2 to 3 weeks. They're different kids getting what they need. And so again, that's all intertwined into that PLC model where we continually look at what we're teaching, how we're teaching, and then of course gathering data so we know if we're doing well or not. So if we start looking ahead and thinking about where we're going, if we are to give M-STEP, and as many of you may have heard, Dr. Rice, the state superintendent, has again resubmitted the waiver so that we would not do standardized testing. But looking ahead, if we were to give this, in 2018-19 was the last time Michigan students took the M-STEP, and in Buchanan, you can see in 4th grade language arts, we were 51% who were either proficient or advanced, which was passing. And you could see those at the bottom, 26% not proficient. In 3rd grade reading, we were 50% again passing with 20% not proficient at that row bottom. And we were hoping, we really were as a whole team, we were hoping to take it last year and not have the pandemic, because we were looking at some really good numbers creeping up. This year, we're looking at language arts. We're projecting about 53% passing with 55% passing in 4th and 3rd grade respectively. So if we hit that target, that would be right about where we want to be, which is even better than the last shot. And then in math, as you can see, the last time we took it was 42% in math and 55% in 3rd grade math. And we're projecting right now 37 and 52. And again, those are fluid, those aren't in stone, and we have some work to be done, especially in 4th grade, where you have 47% are in that bubble, and that can go either way. And so we think at least 15% of that bubble can move up, given some time, which we have, and just it's a wait and see, especially if we have to give M-STEP. What I would really have you look at is that not proficient, that bottom group. And we're looking at the projection, and it was 26%, 20%, 24, 23. And now we're starting to get into the teens. So we're really chipping away at that bottom group and bringing them up. And that's what's important, that we continually work to close that gap. So I feel very good about where we're looking at. And in case you're wondering, where did Dr. Dunn get these numbers? In case you're did he pull it out of his head or wherever? NWEA actually puts out a linking study between actual test data from NWEA and a projection for M-STEP. And so that correlative study is what I used, and that's where you get the numbers today. It wasn't just Mike Dunn making them up. NWEA actually has a study that's been, I find to be pretty true. Having done this in Indiana, it's about 90% true because, of course, you can move that marker with the kids between winter and the time they do M-STEP or when we did I-STEP in Indiana. So it holds pretty true as long as you keep doing what you're doing. So at this point, I'll just stop and say thank you and answer any questions you might have.
Thank you, Dr. Dunn. Real quick, you're saying that was correlational data, is that correct?
Yeah, so they look at the scores over time and they kind of give an idea of if you score this score, then it's projected to be this at M-STEP.
Okay.
And one of the things, in case Dr. Carlin's really scrutinizing those numbers, is that just because you're at grade level does not mean you're going to pass. M-STEP passing is just slightly higher than grade level, and that's a good and bad thing. You want high achievement, but to be on grade level does not equate an actual passing score.
And you said it's correlational, so it's just relational. It's not cause and effect stuff. So, yep. Okay.
I think we have an advantage here in Buchanan, especially compared to many schools across the nation. I was speaking with someone in Western Washington, and they have not been in school at all since last March. They have not been in a classroom. So I think I applaud all of our staff, our teachers, everyone from top to down. If it weren't for all of the efforts by all of you, we would be in that same boat. But I applaud you. Good stuff.
Yeah, I have more of a comment than a question. First of all, thank you for sharing that, Michael. I think it's very informative. I just wanted to kind of say in terms of all the testing stuff. So I've heard, obviously my tenure on the school board has been very short, but the amount of times that I've heard a parent ask me something about testing that had nothing to do with ACT or SAT, that just had to do with why are our kids taking the NWEA again? Or, hey, for those teachers that are concerned about, hey, I'm losing instruction time because we've spent so much time in COVID and virtual learning, that how can we take up another day of testing and that? And those concerns certainly are fair, especially from a teacher's standpoint. I definitely understand that, and I don't want to diminish instructional time whatsoever. That said, I think it's important when we talk to members in the community that we don't use test as another four-letter word. Just those two slides that have been shown or that are in our packet, I think speak volumes. The one that says, hey, here's a percentage of our kids that are on the honor roll. And here is a slide that shows where our kids are grade level, whether it's M-STEP or NWEA. And the difference between those two, I think, is significant. And that's not me diminishing the honor roll. I get excited when my kid says, hey, I made the honor roll as well. But at the end of the day, I have no idea. When you say there's 43%, and I'm making that number up because I don't have the slide in front of me. But when we look at fourth and fifth grade, and there's 43% of the kids in Buchanan on the honor roll, and then in in sixth and seventh grade, it jumped up to like 65 or 70, and we get excited about that, and rightfully we should. But does that mean from fourth and fifth grade, our kids suddenly, our kids make this huge jump from elementary to middle school, for example? So I guess what I'm trying to say is that one of those sets of data tells us a lot more than the other. We have no idea what it takes to get an A in any one of our teachers' classes because none of us are students in that class. We all know that grades only tell us so much, but this data that we get from the NWEA, yes, is a giant pain in the ass, pardon my French, to give up that many instruction days a year. But it's so valuable to tell us as a district, as a school, as a grade level, as a parent who, if somebody, whether it's somebody that naturally understands the report they get, or to be able to have a resource in the district explain, whether that's the teacher or principal or whomever, explain to a parent what exactly that data means, we can learn so much more about like what our kids are actually learning or what they've acquired from a knowledge standpoint from an NWEA report than we can, and a lot of times from a report card. And so I'm not saying one is necessarily better than the other, but I never hear somebody in the community say, man, I can't believe we gave out report cards again. We're still giving these kids grades. Like, this is outlandish. But when it comes to any of the testing stuff we do, it's like we're doing something wrong by giving the NWEA. And yes, obviously, ideally, we would love it for it to be in a vacuum and not take up instructional time. But in the right hands, and I think Michael just gave us a great example of that. In the right hands, we can learn a tremendous amount from that particular data. And if parents understood that too, I think they would have a completely different perspective on the four-letter word that is test. So anyways, I just wanted to kind of put that out there. I appreciate this. I appreciate you spending the time to show us that, Michael. And anyways.
I'd say thank you. And what you got was high-level data. You haven't seen anything yet. Teachers take this data and they with other reports, they drive it down instructionally. So that's one of the things you don't get to see. We, at this level, we send you high-level data about here it is overall. And when we start really, digging into that data and mining it, it's amazing what we can find. Like, for instance, kids do exceptionally well with fictional versus informational text. That's huge when we think about how we reallocate resources. When we have extra money and have a grant, we want to think about what type of books do we buy? Well, why would we buy fiction if the kids are doing phenomenally well in fictional text? Why aren't we buying more, informational text? So the data really does drive lots of different instructional decisions and thinking. I think one of the things we're really bad at this level is, of course, showing and telling that story, because it's in the hands of the people who have to make the best decision with that, which is our teachers. Hence why you see what you see in the data, which is good data. So thanks again. I appreciate that.
And I just want to add one more thing. And I know Dr. Dunn and all of our building principals have to work with data around this. They have to drill it down. Our teachers have to drill it down. I want to thank Dr. Dunn for what he's done and actually what he's actually led and shown other building principals of what they can do with this data. And I don't know if Dr. Dunn, if you shared it with anybody, there was another piece of data that you shared about in-person students who are in-person learning, students who are remote learning, and their NWEA assessments comparison. Knocks you out of the box, because it definitely shows that in-person learning works. And I know, Dr. Dunn, you put it to PLCs. You're going to preach PLCs all the time, which is important a part of our day and how we look and the time that we spend in looking at this data. Our data tells so many different stories to us and actually gives us information regarding funding, regarding budgeting, regarding what really works for our students. So yes, I know testing can be a pain. It does take up some of the instructional time. However, it's worth it as we move ahead and move forward in developing plans for our students.
I'll share that out, Trish, to use to share to the board again. I didn't present that tonight because we only have one remote learning class per grade level, and I did not want to have a teacher feel alienated based on about her data, which I think we all agree. They are doing us a favor and hard work by offering remote learning, and I don't want to beat anyone up. But the data is very prevalent that across the board, in-person learning almost by tenfold does better than remote learning. And our remote teachers do go to PLCs, so that's a commonality. The problem that we don't have, of course, is there's a higher reliance, and not beating parents up. I'm just saying there's just a higher reliance on parents as the teacher, as opposed to that in-person teaching. So again, thank you for acknowledging our efforts. I think it was Ruth for in-person learning and the commit we made. Because I can tell you, I get tired of hearing the CDC recommendations just recently of, if you're going to reopen school, and I'm thinking, where have you all been? Because we've been doing it. And by the way, those 5 things, we've been doing it and been doing it well. So hats off to Buchanan. We really, we're doing something right.
And just to piggyback on that, just also and there's a lot of research on comparisons between in-person versus remote. Basically, there's also other factors involved in that, which deals with the social, emotional learning component that is connected with that in-person kind of environment. And then there's other factors with parental involvement and some other things with that. So.
Okay. Anything else? Dr. Dunn, thank you so much for this excellent work. Okay. And Dr. Burnett, it's okay for us to go through the executive?
Go for it.
Okay. Okay. Mr. Place.
Hello. Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
January's report is kind of short and sweet. There's not a whole lot of things to report here. There's one thing that I would like to just kind of brag on just a little bit. But we have a digital phone system in all of our buildings, and last year we actually implemented a system that tracks and alerts in the event of a 911 call that's been dialed. And this was a feature that we really needed because I was getting calls, who dialed 911, what happened, whatever. Because obviously it's very disconcerting when, even if it's just a hang up call, that I don't think people realize, but if you dial those 3 digits, it goes through no matter what, even if you just hang it up. So our system now tracks that, and then it sends out an alert to all building administrators to let them know that this 911 call was dialed, what phone extension it was dialed from, and exactly what time that occurred. And that gives them the ability to track it back and say, hey, was this a legitimate thing? Was it not? And so we had the system in place. Unfortunately, there was some issues with the email it wasn't allowing it to work. So in January, we isolated that problem and have been testing it, and it is now back fully functional. So that's a great feature for us to have. And I'm glad that it's working. Unfortunately, it's one of those things that you don't want to find it doesn't work when you need it. So it's on our list of things to test regularly going into this also. So we're going to be doing a better job of keeping track of that. And then I've also talked a little bit about Land School, which is a classroom engagement tool that we're utilizing. We beta tested that with some teachers at the high school and the middle school. In January, our middle school teachers got some very in-depth training on how to utilize that product. And we've had nothing but great reviews. Everyone is very excited about it. In fact, there was a small glitch in the product. They were having some issues on their end, and I heard from every teacher. So that was great. That means they're all using it. They're all depending on it now. I mean, it's amazing how you go from, hey, you want to try this out, to I need this. This has to work. So it's been good. And just as a reminder, that product allows for teachers to monitor what students are doing on their Chromebooks. They are able to see what active tabs that they have open, and they have the ability to restrict them. So if you're in a classroom environment and you're like, okay, kids, I need you to look up here, they can actually put that message up on the screen and making it so the students have to stop utilizing their Chromebook and direct their attention to the teacher. So that product is now in full swing at both the high school and the middle school, and it's very well received. So that really is the most important things that I have to go over for January. If you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer anything. If not, thank you. Have a great evening.
Thank you, Phil.
Okay, thank you. I just sent him a text. So Al will join us next month. And so we are moving on to Tricia.
Good evening, everyone. Again, short for us for January as well. We just had a couple things on. We continue to do, of course, accounts payable and payroll and all those fun things. 1099s and W-2s are all out, so everybody can file their taxes. And I think record time, our consolidated application with all of our title grants has been approved. Usually it's closer to mid to late February or 1st of March, but they've been doing a much better job at getting things through the state level, as well as a lot of our things are recurring from year to year, so that keeps us stable in our approving things as well. And then the last thing, which you'll actually hit later on in the agenda, well, I forgot, the Medicaid outreach report. I do that every quarter as well. So we get some funds from Medicaid outreach. It's filtered through the Marion RESA. And lots of times we go all year or a year and a half before we finally get around to getting it back. But at least we do get some money for that. The last thing is the IRS appeal. We are still waiting on the 2014 FICA refund for the district, as well as our staff that have asked for us to collect those funds for them. Dr. Burnett had asked last meeting about how much money that was, and I do have that number in front of me tonight. And so that is about $14,000 of district money. And then it's a little around closer to $13,000 for employee, and it could be former employee money as well. So I ask you to approve a resolution tonight in regards to that, so that I can continue to work towards getting that money back. I'm not certain. There's still a lot of things up in the air, but I didn't want to have Trish call a special board meeting. So a preliminary ask is just to have you guys do it while we're at a regular board meeting, so that that's done and in place if we need it. And that's it for us. Is there anyone that has any questions?
Thank you for getting that information for us, Tricia.
Of course. Everybody have a nice evening and back at school tomorrow. Thank you.
Thank you, Tricia. Okay, and Mark. You're muted.
Always forget. Sorry. I have two quick reports for you tonight. The first one is really short. If you recall, every month we have to report to the state whether our instruction changed or not. And throughout the year, we've had, the state shut us down. We shut down some buildings at times. But this time, between January and February, the first week of February, the state did not shut us down, and we did not shut down a whole building. We may have had a class or two go out, but that didn't change our overall percentage range. And so we were able to do a quick report that said we had no major changes this time around. And I think that goes back to Ruth's comment about us being in school a majority of the time. That like Dr. Dunn had said, there's some districts that have around the state that have been out all the time. I know Benton Harbor's been out a lot. I know my wife in Dowagiac started the year the first 9 weeks out. So I think that's a credit to our staff, again, for being in person as much as possible. So any questions on that quick report for that one? All right. The next one is because we because we are virtual and the state, because we didn't have any test scores going on at the time, required that any schools that have K through 8, you had to give a benchmark assessment at the mid-year and at the end of the year. And part of our plan is we had to write goals for that. And so our goals basically for the mid-year and end of the year where all students would improve and meet their growth goal at mid-year and the end of the year. And so we, first of all, if you look at this chart, the first number there is the fall to winter growth in reading. So you can see that for all students, it was 60% from fall. So the beginning of the school year to mid-year, we had 60% of our kids meet their growth. And then same thing for math. from fall to winter, we had 64% of our kids meet their growth. And then Trish asked me to kind of compare that just so you could kind of get a feel of where we were last year. So the second one you'll see there is the fall of 19. So last fall to the middle of the year was at 63%. And so, really last year, 63%, that same group of kids this year was at 60. So we really didn't drop as much as what you would have thought. Overall, that's, K through 6. This year we added 7th grade or 8th grade to the mix. Same thing for math. Actually, this year we were up 64% compared to 57% last year at the mid-year, which is kind of ironic depending on what you're looking at there, because math is usually a struggle across the board. I think that just proves the point that we've been hitting it extra hard in math. Not that we haven't been in reading, but math had a ways to go. And then the one thing that we wanted to kind of show was just where we were at if we went from winter of last year to this year. So that was a special report we had to run, and we had 59% of our kids at mid-year last year would have met their growth from last year through the spring, over the summer, fall to this winter. 59% met their growth, which is pretty close to that 60% overall. And then 60% met their math scores. And I think when Trish and I talked about this, we were excited about those scores. Again, it shows what our staff is doing. I'm going to just you can go down and look later on, but you can see there's female versus male scores. There's what breaks it down by ethnicity. We had to do that. That's where you kind of get into the data where you can see, okay, depending on how many kids we had, we might have had some drop-offs, depending on whether it was reading or math. Sometimes it's hard to tell when you look at the numbers because we may not have that many students, okay, that actually were in that category. But if you look at SPED, 29% for reading, 37% for math for this year. So we've got some work to do there. White, 60% reading, 65%. Just wanted to kind of give you a feel for where we were at. And this is some more of that data like Dr. Carlson was saying that we can look at and use it from an instructional standpoint that maybe some parents might not understand, but our staff can break it down a little bit further, and it's important for us. So just kind of give you an idea. There's different links that will break it down a little bit more for you by gender and so on. I'm just going to show one more tab just so you can kind of get a feel. If you happen to go into that link there for all students, one of the reports that you get in NWEA, and you can see that I worked it out here. This is the average, okay, for K through 8, the reading or the math growth, okay. One of the other parts of that you'll get in that report is this little graph right here that I'm kind of circling. The diamond is where NWEA expects that grade level to be, and then the purple is where we are. Okay, where we are by specific grades. So that's a little bit more of a breakdown for principals to look at. Kind of gives you an idea of where we're headed. Okay, I will tell you that kindergarten and first grade usually is a struggle. Okay, because they've really never done NWEA before. It's first time on the computer for them, and so that's a struggle. But you can see, second grade math, third grade math, fourth grade math. The diamond is all inside the purple. The purple is above, and that's where you want it to be. You see the same thing in 5th through 8th grade. Okay, some are a little higher, but you can see that our students are meeting their growth, and that's what we want to see. So that's the math breakdown. I'm going to slide down a little bit further. You can see reading, okay, which is what they're really hitting hard in kindergarten. First grade is a little bit closer, okay. In kindergarten, 2nd, 3rd, and 4th grade, all the way through 8th grade, again, their purple is at the top of the diamond or past the diamond in just about every category. So just wanted to kind of give you an idea, kind of show you where our kids are at. This is the actual spreadsheet that document I showed you first that had the scores in there, was what we had to report to the state. We kind of went a little bit further and broke it down. Just so that we'd have a little bit better idea of where we were at and then able to make some comparisons. So again, you can go to that first link, that last slide I just showed you. That's the link there. You can go in there and break it down by gender and then also by ethnicity if you want to go into that in depth. So thank you. I'll take any questions. If not, thank you and have a great evening.
Thank you, Mark. I do want to just make a comment regarding the data. So I had asked, and I'm happy the state is requiring it. However, within our team, as Mark and I meet often, one of the questions that I did have was, where is our subgroup data? The subgroup data tells a lot, and it also helps us build and make sure that we are addressing the needs of all students. So it's really good that we look at where our students are proficient wise, but then we also need to take it a step further and drill down to what groups need additional assistance, what groups need funding, where do we need to put some of our dollars? So we get into the word of equitable services and making sure that we are being equitable across the district. Another thing, I don't know, Dr. Dunn also, and I lost my thought, so never mind. Okay, this is my age, so forget it. But nonetheless, it does help us into talking about making sure that we are equitable across the district, and then also including other groups. So I was on the parent advisory call. I think that's where I was, one of these. And the conversation continues to be, great, we're talking about advanced placement for the students who are advanced. And where are the conversations for our students who are not meeting those proficiency levels? Where's the talk and the conversations about what are we doing for students who might have challenges? We do see that, when Dr. Don's building in Moccasin, they're utilizing those PLCs to help those conversations. And so we'll just build on what we have in our district to build those conversations, to also make sure that we are providing funding across the board in those groups, our subgroups or marginalized groups, and that we are being equitable across the board. I just wanted to share that.
Trish, I would like to add that we're part of the BRESA study of diversity, equity, and inclusion. And so this is something that's a countywide, semi-countywide initiative, and some interesting dialogue and conversations at the county level and with individual school districts. So it's something that we'll be looking at locally in the future a little bit more.
All right, very good. All right, thank you very much for all of the reports. Good job, team. Appreciate it. All right, moving on to item G, community dialogue, citizens' concerns. And I'll ask Michelle, do you have anything floating in there?
Nope, there's none.
Okay, very good, because I would have no clue what buttons to push. All right. All right, very good. Thank you very much. All right, moving on to item H, adoption of the consent agenda. May we have a motion, please?
I'll make a motion that the consent agenda for the regular board meeting of February 16th, 2021 be adopted as written. Included in the agenda are the minutes from the 1/12/2021 organizational meeting and the January 18th, 2021 regular meeting, warrants and expenditures, treasury and expenditure reports for January 2021, employment contract for 2020-2021 school year for Lucy Burrow, Kid Care Director, and Rebecca Kaltenbach, Food Service Supervisor, which is a continuation from a 6-month probationary contract. Recommendation to hire as submitted by the middle school principal, Mrs. Shelby Beasley, of Jody Tittle, 6th and 7th grade ELA interventionist. Coaching recommendation for winter of 2021 submitted by Assistant Athletic Coordinator Mr. Ryan Franzek, of Derek Teft, 7th grade girls basketball coach. And a recommendation of Buchanan Community Schools extended COVID-19 learning plan.
Support. All right, Mr. Robinson.
Congratulations to our hirees that are recommended, and we ask for your support.
Okay, very good. Any questions or comments from board members? All right, roll call.
Mr. Lee,
Yes.
Miss Berry,
Yes.
Mr. Carlson,
Yes.
Miss Lesh, yes. Dr. Carlin,
Yes.
Miss Ryder,
Yes.
and Dr. Burnett.
Yes.
7 yeses, motion is adopted.
Very good. Moving on to recommended action other. I-1 BBA graduation certification. May we have a motion, please?
I move upon satisfactory completion of the district requirements for high school graduation, the Board of Education hereby approves BVA students Abigail Baker, Abigail Patton, Hannah Baker, John Bertrand, or Jack Bertrand, sorry, Layla Draper, Liam Emmerich, and Wesley Merkling.
I see Chris. I see your lip, yeah.
I think Chris said support.
Yep,
So,
I got it.
Mr. Robinson, any comments on our upcoming graduates here?
Just congratulations to all of them. And I reiterate this every time, especially with virtual learning, it's not easy. So it takes just a level of dedication, commitment, and resilience to complete the courses. So I am very proud of the graduates who are listed here today.
Very good. Congratulations. Any comments or questions from board members? All right, roll call.
Mr. Lee,
Yes.
Miss Berry,
Yes.
Mr. Carlson,
Yes.
Miss Lesh, yes. Dr. Carlin,
Yes.
Miss Ryder,
Yes.
and Dr. Burnett.
Yes. Moving
7
on to item.
yeses, motion adopted. Sorry, you'll get used to it.
Oh, yeah. Moving on to item I2, BVA course offerings. May we have a motion, please?
I make a motion the Buchanan Board of Education approves the following courses for the 2020-2021 school year to be offered through Buchanan Virtual Academy as submitted by BVA Director Mark Fry: Integrated Math K through 8 and Integrated English K through 8.
Second.
All right. Mrs. Robinson?
As you can see outlined on the report are the reasonings for the need for these courses. These are, if you can just look at these as interventions, virtual interventions, just like we provide in-person interventions for our students, this is a virtual way of providing those interventions for students who need that additional support and help.
Okay, very good. Question or comments from board members? All right, roll call.
Mr. Lee,
Yes.
Miss Berry,
Yes.
Mr. Carlson,
Yes.
Miss Lesh, yes. Dr. Carlin,
Yes.
Miss Ryder,
Yes.
and Dr. Burnett.
Yes.
7
Moving on.
yeses, motion adopted.
Never mind. Moving on to item I3, SAT crowdfunding. May we have a motion, please?
Make a motion that the Buchanan Board of Education approves the crowdfunding for the Buchanan High School Advanced SAT Prep Group.
Support.
All right. Mrs. Robinson?
Yes, we have the honor to have or privilege to have this SAT prep course given to us, and it's being taught by Dr. Scott Carlin. We've also asked for donations, and the thing about this, people can donate through a link online. So we do need support in improving the crowdfunding piece that we have here. So the link can go all over and people can donate to help build this up. It's a non-endowed account actually that we have with Michigan Gateway Foundation, which is really good. And we can begin to, and our goal is to offer this each year to our students free of charge. So as we're asking for donations, this is going to hopefully carry us for years to come.
Okay. Very good. Question or comments from board members? All right. Roll call.
You're muted, Kelly.
Oh, I just hit it. Sorry, Mr. Lee,
Yes.
Miss Berry,
Yes.
Mr. Carlson,
Yes.
Ms. Lesh, yes. Dr. Carlin?
Oh, I was debating. I was questioning the instruction of this particular course and whether it was yes, no, yes.
Ms. Ryder?
Yes.
Dr. Burnett?
Yes.
7 yeses, motion has been adopted.
All right. Moving on to item I4, MASB Board of Director vote. We do need a motion there.
Okay, I'll start this. I, Ruth Ryder, nominate Don Myers to serve as representative for MASB Region 6 Board of Directors.
I'll second that.
All right. Ms. Robinson and probably Ms. Ryder as well.
Yeah. I'll explain why I chose Mr. Myers. He has the most experience on the board. One of the candidates only is on the board for 2 years. And I think that there needs to be a little bit more experience there. Let's see, that's the gal from Comstock at 6 years. And then the individual from Cover is 2 years. Mr. Myers has 10 years. He's the incumbent. And also he has a background in education where I did not see what the background was for the other 2 candidates. And I think that that was one of my reasoning factors as well.
Okay. All right. Questions or comments from board members for Ms. Ryder on this recommendation? Okay. I guess hearing none, let's go ahead and have a roll call.
Mr. Lee?
Yes.
Ms. Berry?
Yes.
Mr. Carlson?
Yes.
Ms. Lesh, yes. Dr. Carlin?
Yes.
Ms. Ryder?
Yes.
Dr. Burnett?
Yes.
7 yeses, motion is adopted or
Okay.
representative approved.
Okay. Moving on to item I5, 2021 refund or refunding bonds. May we have a motion there? And it's a long document, so if you, well, you can also paraphrase it if you like.
No, sorry. I like to read, but I wasn't even in this meeting. So who's on the board or who's in this committee?
Well, perhaps Chris, as our treasurer, might be willing to read that one. Or we can even divvy it up.
There you go.
Let's
ahead,
divvy
Chris.
it up.
Let's break it down, Chris.
Poor Chris.
What we got?
It's a
I'll
long
read the first
one.
2 pages if someone else wants to jump in after me.
Sounds like a plan.
Okay. Make a motion, whereas Part 6 of Act 34, Public Acts of Michigan 2001, as amended, the revised Municipal Finance Act, known as the Act, permits the issuer to refund all or part of its bonded indebtedness. And 2, the issuer has received a proposal from Stifel, Nicholas and Company Incorporated, Okemos, Michigan, known as the underwriter, to refund all or part of that portion of the issuer's outstanding 2013 school building and site bonds dated June 27, 2013 in the original amount of $14,740,000, which are callable on or after May 1st, 2023, and are due and payable May 1st, 2024, May 1st, 2025, May 1st, 2028, May 1st, 2029, May 1st, 2031, and May 1st, 2033, now known as the prior bonds. And 3, the board determines that it is in the best interest of the issuer to consider refunding the prior bonds. And 4, prior to the issuance of bonds, the issuer must either achieve qualified status or secure prior approval of the bonds from the Michigan Department of Treasury pursuant to the Act. Now, therefore, be it resolved that 1, bonds of the issuer designated 2021 refunding bonds, general obligation, unlimited tax, and federally taxable, the bonds be issued in the aggregate principal amount of not to exceed $11,850,000 as finally determined upon sale thereof for the purpose of refunding all or a portion of the prior bonds. The bonds shall be dated the date of the delivery or such other date as established at the time of sale, shall be numbered in the direct order of the maturities from 1 upwards, shall be fully registered bonds as to the principal and interest, shall bear interest at a rate of or rates to be hereafter determined upon sale, payable on November 1st, 2021, or such other date as may be established at the time of sale, and semi-annually thereafter on May 1st and November 1st in each year, and shall mature on May 1st in each year to be subsequently determined by the superintendent or the executive director of business and operations of the issuer, each an authorized officer, in the final principal amounts determined upon sale and may be subject to redemption as determined by an authorized officer in the amounts at the times in the manner and at the prices determined upon the sale of the bonds. 2, the bonds may consist of serial or term bonds or any combination thereof, which may be issued in 1 or more series, all of which shall be determined upon sale of the bonds. 3, the bonds shall be in denominations of $5,000 or any whole multiple thereof. 4, the principal of the bonds and the interest thereon shall be payable in lawful money of the United States of America at or by a bank or trust company to the designated by an authorized officer at the time of sale, herein called the paying agent, which shall act as the paying agent and bond register or such successor paying agent bond register as may be approved by the issuer on such semi-annual interest payment date and the date of each principal maturity. Number 5, book entry, unless otherwise requested by the underwriter, the ownership of 1 fully registered bond for each maturity in the aggregate principal amount of such maturity shall be registered in the name of Seed and Company as nominee of the Depository Trust Company, DTC. So long as the bonds are in the book entry form only, the paying agent shall comply with the terms of the blanket issuer letter of representations to be entered into between the issuer and DTC, which provisions shall govern registration, notices, and payment, among other things, and which provisions are incorporated herein with the same effect as if fully set forth herein. An authorized officer authorized and directed to enter into the blanket issuer's letter of representation with DTC in such form as determined by the authorized officer in consultation with bond counsel to be necessary and appropriate. In the event the issuer determines that the continuation of the system of book entry only transfer through DTC or a successor securities depository is not in the best interest of the DC participants, beneficial owners of the bonds, or issuer, the issuer will notify the paying agent, whereupon the paying agent will notify DTC of the availability through DTC of the bond certificates. In such event, the issuer shall issue, the paying agent shall transfer the exchange bonds as requested by DTC or like principal amount, series, and maturity in authorized denominations in the identifiable beneficial owners in replacement of the beneficial interest of such beneficial owners in the bonds as provided herein. So long as
Chris.
Yes.
Hey, Chris. I'm going to rudely interrupt. So,
thank you.
So Harvey and I are texting. And just so you know, this is part of our agenda and our minutes. So I think after you did 1, 2, 3, 4, you could say everything that is presented below. There are 24 of those, and it's going to take forever.
Yes.
So it's not like we're hiding anything. It's just that it will be presented when we're done with this. So you don't have to read all that.
It'll be included in the minutes. Okay.
It will be included in the minutes. Exactly.
Okay.
Good effort, though, Chris.
Oh,
Good effort.
Yeah, we were just joking. No. Yeah, that's a lot. So we've
So
done
is
it in
that
the past with really, really long motions like this because you have to have it all in there. And then you read basically the gist of it, and then you can just say, and everything presented below. So
okay.
there you go.
I'll say in everything presented below.
Oh, Chris. Awesome job, Chris. Awesome
Thank
job.
you.
Did
Took
you
one for
second
the
that,
team.
Harvey? Who seconded that?
Oh, we haven't yet. I will.
Okay. Thank you.
Very good. Ms. Robinson, any further comments on this?
No.
Yeah, I think Trisha already went over this earlier in our presentation. So any questions or comments from board members? All right, let's go with roll call.
Mr. Lee,
Yes.
Ms. Berry,
Yes.
Mr. Carlson,
Yes.
Ms. Lesh, yes. Dr. Carlin,
Yes.
Ms. Ryder,
Yes.
and Dr. Burnett.
Yes.
7 yeses, motion is adopted.
Very good. Moving on to I-6, Neola first reading policies. May we have a motion, please? I guess I can move this. I move the Board of Education approves the first reading of the following Neola revised and/or new policies. Yeah, I can't even see that thing, but anyway, 8450 point, I think it's 05. Emergency temporary telecommunicating policy. That's a new one. 6114, cost principal spending federal funds, and 6325, procurement of federal grant funds.
Approved or second.
Okay. Very good. Ms. Robinson.
Okay, policy 6114 and 6325 are updates based from the Edgar regulations. The policy committee and I met regarding those. We reviewed them. I know Katie will have an update with the policy committee, just kind of giving an overview of what we discussed. And Neola gave us what we needed to update, outlined in the green areas within your board packet. After reviewing them, we will need to, once we have our second read, we need to approve those because those are based off of regulations. And then the other policy is based off of MIOSHA mandates, basically regarding telecommuting, which we shall have that in our policy as well.
All right. Question or comments from board members? All right, let's have roll call.
Mr. Lee,
Yes.
Ms. Berry,
Yes.
Mr. Carlson,
Yes.
Ms. Lesh, yes. Dr. Carlin,
Yes.
Ms. Ryder,
Yes.
and Dr. Burnett.
Yes.
7
moving-
yeses, motion adopted.
Okay. And moving on to item I-7, proposed IRS closing agreement. May we have a motion?
I make a motion that the Buchanan Community Schools, whereas A, the Michigan Public School Employees Retirement System, MIPSers Act was amended effective September 4th, 2012 PA 300 to require eligible public school employees to contribute 3% of the compensation to an invocable trust or for retiree health benefits and 3% retiree healthcare contribution to be enrolled in the MIPSers Health Premium Subsidy, and all that is presented below. And now therefore be it resolved that 1, in reliance upon communications directly from the ORS and indirectly from the attorney Wilk including attachments A through D to this resolution, the board finds it to be the best interest of the Buchanan Community Schools District to conclusively resolve through at least tax year 2026, the Buchanan Community Schools District federal income withholding and FICA tax obligations with respect to Buchanan Community School District employees who continue to be subject to a 3% reduction in their compensation to be enrolled into MIPSR's health premium subsidy. Number 2, the board hereby authorizes and delegates all necessary authority to the superintendent or designee to execute the partially completed IRS Form 2848 Power of Attorney and Declaration of Representation, Attachment C, on behalf of the Board of Education, designating W. Allen Wilk of Dykema Gazlet PLLC as the Buchanan Community Schools District representation before the IRS for the purpose of executing closed agreement CLAG 117897-19, provided that any closing agreement executed by Attorney Wilk on behalf of the Buchanan Community Schools District, A, complies with applicable law, B, contains only the 3 operative paragraphs detailed in preamble para G above and attachment A or other terms, meritly advantageous to the Buchanan Community School District. C, covers at least tax years 2013 to 2026. D, does not impair any protective action previously filed by the Buchanan Community Schools District or effective employees, extending the period of limitations for seeking refunds or credits. And E, is conditioned on the ORS payment of $3,000 user fee to the IRS on behalf of the Buchanan Community Schools District, space in there, with no additional payment or user fee due from the Buchanan Community Schools. 3, the board hereby directs the superintendent or designees to insert the following italicized text on page 2, part 1, section 7 of IRS Form 2848 before signing. Signature of taxpayer. I certify that I have the legal authority to execute this form on behalf of the taxpayer as set forth in the attached resolution adopted by taxpayers governing board at a public meeting held on February 16, 2021. Number 4, the board directs the superintendent or designee to forward a signed copy of this resolution to the ORS along with the signed IRS Form 2848. And number 5, the board further authorizes the delegates all necessary authority to the superintendent or designee in such consultation as deemed necessary with the Buchanan Community Schools District legal, tax, financial advisors to implement the signed closing agreement consistent with this resolution. And finally, number 6, all resolutions and parts of this resolution insofar as they conflict with the provisions of this resolution are hereby rescinded.
Support.
All right.
Who said that? Sorry, Chris.
Chris.
Yep.
Thank you.
Very good. You got that backwards. Actually, the other issue was a bond issue, and this one is the tax issue. So,
Yes.
yep. Yeah.
Okay.
Got a question.
And Scott's got it.
Sorry to jump on your question, Harvey, about are there any questions, but I have a question. Can somebody explain exactly what we're deciding on this one? Like the 3% is doing what?
Yeah. So
comes
if
Chris.
I'm happy to explain that if you want.
yeah, go ahead,
Please.
Okay. So, Scott, what happened is several years ago, the employees of Buchanan schools that were employed paid 3% into the health care fund for ORS. At the time, it was deemed that we should be paying, paying FICA on those funds. So we've been for years and years, it's been since 2013 that the IRS finally made a ruling on that 3% that said that it was FICA and federal tax exempt. But several people did not switch. We did not change over because it was so back and forth with all the rulings that we had continued to tax it. And so in short, what's happened is they finally made a determination. ORS finally agreed that yes, it was not taxable and that we should reimburse our employees, or we had to do what we called perfected claims with the IRS to recall those funds back that we paid not only on the employer portion for Buchanan Schools, but also the employee portion. But we had to have all the employees sign a letter that stated, yes, we want Buchanan Schools to get those monies back from the IRS. So I have been working on this for over 2 years. We filed for 2013, 14, 15, and 16 to receive the FICA monies back for the district and
This
those
is what you were talking
employees
about.
that-
This is what you're talking about earlier, right?
Right.
Okay.
So what
Okay.
has happened is we've received checks back for the year of 13, 15, and 16, and the IRS has denied to give us back 14. So that was what was in my board report too, is that we have sent it to appeals and got it back from appeals now, and so it's sitting at the IRS waiting for to look it over. In the meantime, see, I've done all this legwork on it, but other districts have been declined their money as well. So we kind of went all together with the state of Michigan and did a class action kind of suit. And that's what this resolution is stating is if I don't get anywhere with my appeal and get them to review it and give me our money back as well as the employees for 2014, then I can join into this class action suit and get the money back that way. So it's a
So we're just
kind of
we're
like an
just giving permission to be part of the. We're just saying yes to give permission to be part of this class action at this point in tonight's vote.
correct.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
And has the money
Okay.
already been
Does
given
anybody
back
else?
from 12, 13, and 15? Has that money already been given back to employees?
No, we have it in a liability account within the district that's earmarked just for the employees, hoping to get this back, and so we can pay it back to them all at the same time
Gotcha.
and one
Okay.
lump
So
payment.
if we
because
vote
then
yes,
what we have
if
to
we
do
vote
is go
yes,
back.
if we vote
Once
yes
we-
tonight,
once-
we're saying yes. You can continue to pursue this lawsuit or possible class action suit, right?
Correct. If I
Okay.
don't get anywhere with the appeals, correct.
Okay. Thank you.
Yep. And then we give it back to everybody, and then we have to do new W-2s for all those years. So it's a huge endeavor,
Okay.
but
Okay. Thank you for
okay.
taking the time to
Does
explain that.
anybody else? No problem. Does anybody else have any questions regarding that? I know it's something new, but
Yeah.
all right.
So
Thank you,
money and
everyone.
taxes. Money and taxes, which is always confusing. Right. So, all
Correct.
right. Any further questions? All right. Let's go ahead and do roll call.
Thank you.
Thank you, Tricia. Mr. Lee,
Thank you, Trish.
Yes.
Ms. Berry,
I'm going to abstain because I haven't reviewed the information based on the timeliness of receiving it. So I don't have any concerns with it, but from what I understand about it, I don't feel like I can offer an opinion.
Mr. Carlson,
Abstain due to my wife's employment.
Ms. Lesh, yes. Dr. Carlin,
Yes.
Ms. Ryder,
Yes.
and Dr. Burnett.
Yes. All right.
That's 5 yeses and 2 abstained, and motion has been adopted.
Okay. Very good. All right. Moving on to item J, information reports and new business. J1, Board Policy Committee there. Let's go, Ms. Robinson.
Okay, so we did meet, and Katie is going to give us our summary.
Yes, I can meet. And just a reminder of who the board committee is. So we have myself, Mrs. Ryder, and Mr. Burnett on that policy committee. And when we met, we also were joined by Becky Kaltenbach, who talked about the wellness policy, as well as an update to administrative guidelines for the food services policy. And just one point of clarification, those updates that we discussed the potential of in our meeting aren't part of our packet today, so those will come to us before they're approved for the readings, correct? Okay.
Correct.
All right, the other items we talked about on those, I'm sorry, the wellness policy will be reviewed every 3 years, so that's something that we discussed in the timing of that. And it Becky has a great grasp on what she wants to see included in that and who to involve in that. The other thing we talked about was policy 6114 that was included in the discussion already tonight. Those Neola updates were reviewed, recommendations made sense. The policy 845005, the MIOSHA rule for the telecommuting policy, we do recommend that we move forward with that as updated. And then finally, we discussed the advertising and commercial activities policy 9700. We've been approached by businesses who would like to advertise their business, so reviewing that to make sure that it is updated. And the recommendation of the committee would be to add the inclusion of advertisement in the school district publications, school district facilities, or on school district property does not constitute or imply approval and or endorsement of any product, service, organization, or activity, and does not interfere with the ability to receive federal or state funding. So based on the types of businesses, we just want to make sure that we are not doing anything that would prevent us from receiving funds in the future. We also discussed the review cycle. So the committee will create a calendar to review all of the board policies. It is a huge undertaking, and we understand that, and we will work with Neola on that project. And then we talked about what the review process includes. It includes the policies for revision based on need, a change in law, or a change in regulation. So obviously those will be the ones like tonight that are brought more quickly and not on a cycled review. The committee will meet regularly to prioritize those. And then the committee examines the content for any concern, any questions, and the suggested language is added to the policy revisions. And then at the next meeting, those are presented and the board will take the opportunity for the second reading at the following meeting. So any questions? I love reading policies and these kind of discussions, so it was a great conversation.
Very good. Yes. That's why Katie's awesome, because
Yes. Thank you,
right.
Katie.
All right. Very good. Moving on to item J2, looking at the curriculum and programming committee.
Okay. And we met, and Ruth will do the update overview on this one. Thank you.
Good evening. The two board members on this committee are myself and Dr. Carlin. We were also joined by Trish, Mark Curlin, and Phil Place. The first thing we discussed was the purpose of the curriculum committee, and we said that we would review matters related to existing or new curriculum and educational programs. We would review standardized tests and evaluate results of the district monitors curriculum adoption and implementation cycle in collaboration with the assistant superintendent, informs and directs the board's annual approval of learning goals in support of the district's education mission, guides the board in periodic assessment of progress toward achievement of these goals, holds informational meetings with appropriate professional staff members dealing with curriculum items, including current and innovative matters. I will say that in the years prior to this, the curriculum committee consisted of one person until last year, and then it was two, but then COVID happened. So this was the first time that we had actually two members on this committee, and that really helped. I really appreciated Dr. Carlin's perspective. We worked with setting goals, ensuring that the district has included a year-to-year budget dollar for curriculum. This was huge. We have not seen money in the budget for curriculum except for committees like the PLCs and so on, but materials for years. So this was huge. Ensuring that we have dollars in a plan developed for advanced courses in the 2021-2022 school year. We should work toward providing one advanced placement course in each of the core subject areas. We did discuss this at length. We've had those in the past, like a decade, 2 decades, 3 decades ago, and now we need to institute those. We also will need to have teachers who are interested in receiving the training for those advanced placement courses, and we'll have to, as a district, look at scheduling adjustments. Mark Fry came in for quite a while to discuss the whole issue of possible cooperative agreement, and then that became moot because that school decided to go with another school. We had on the agenda a number of items with Mark Curlin. We did go over the district initiatives, PLCs. We talked about that. High impact leadership with Moccasin and Ottawa projects, 5 through 12 ELA curriculum. And we're working with Chris Martin at BRISA for those. We're working with Joe Elshaki in the math curriculum, 8 through 12. And we must, this again, we emphasize this several times, we must allocate dollars. That's why we're here, education. We did also receive information about the Michigan Integrated Continuous Improvement Process, and that looks at the whole child. And then a couple of other things we did talk, Phil was involved with 2 important points on technology. Technology had never been part of curriculum committee in the past, but how do we address the digital divide for both students and teachers when they're home? This encompasses 2 parts. First, the geographic location of those who simply live in rural areas. And I think, Kelly, you can attest to that. And second is, if the district is to help provide access to families that cannot afford it, how is this going to be paid for? The second item that we talked was what will be the expectations going forward for both teachers and students? What is learning going to look like in the future? Some other things that we discussed are we need to review the materials at each grade level. We have outdated texts. We have texts that, especially in the department that I worked in, that have not been updated now in 14 years. So these kids that are learning from those books weren't born when the text was written. And also, it may not be text, it's going to be technology, online materials, and so on. So we talked about that. We need to have a curriculum review cycle developed and implemented. At one time, we had a 7-year cycle. So once every 7 years, you knew that science was going to be evaluated. It was a cycle. So you didn't say willy-nilly, well, let's buy, basket weaving or whatever. I don't know. So we need to get back into that. A big question, is there enough materials for our students? I know that in some cases, there's one classroom set of materials for 5 classes. So they have no text, no materials to take home. But that's a problem. And the curriculum budget and the technology budget, and that has to be addressed by the committee and then by the board. And then there are several policies that need to be updated. We have policies that are dated 1989 for curriculum. There have been a few changes since 1989, so we really need to look at that. And furthermore, these policies have been there. They've not been followed for a number of years. So that's basically, it was a very productive meeting, and I appreciate the administration input and Dr. Carlin. It was a good meeting. We've got a lot of work. Thank you.
I just want to add one thing. I know this meeting, I know that we've already gone quite a while, but I figured it was apropos. I got a phone call actually about an hour before this meeting from a parent who lives in the district, but whose child does not go to this district, asking if their child could be part of the SAT prep class that's being offered at Buchanan. And I informed the person, sorry, I appreciate you asking, but it's just for Buchanan High School students that are juniors. We're not even allowing sophomore siblings to be in it yet, or et cetera. And before I could get the question out, like, well, why doesn't your kid go to Buchanan? I would have done it in a diplomatic way. She offered it on her own, and she told me, yeah, our child goes to Niles by school of choice because they offer advanced placement classes. Now, I didn't respond to that. I didn't get into I didn't try to recruit her back here or whatever, but I thought that was very apropos considering the conversation we just had in the curriculum committee. That was her reason. She only gave one reason, and that was it.
I think a lot of things have changed since we had Common Core and all of those changes about 10 years ago. And a lot of our electives, AP and all those other wonderful electives just went by the wayside. Like, we don't have time, but we can be creative as a district and infuse those opportunities again. I truly believe. That's an opinion though. So.
Thank you for that summary, Ruth.
Very good.
Yep, thank you. And thank you, Dr. Carlin, too, for sharing that information. We're hearing that on every level. We heard it during the community forum. I heard it all throughout the advisory committee, parent advisory committee meeting, and it happened. So it's definitely something that we as a district have to make sure that we are approaching and actually implement.
Mm-hmm. And I saw, just being in the building this last week for the course and starting to run into teachers, I almost started to try to recruit 2 particular teachers, just kind of off the cuff, like, hey, how do you feel about teaching an AP class maybe next year if we get the ball? But I figured I didn't want to step on anybody's toes, so I didn't say anything yet. But it's an exciting thing to, worst case, they could say no, right? I'm not sure that's really my job to say it anyway, so I didn't. But if whoever ends up broaching that subject, if you need any recruitment help, depending on who it is, I might be able to help. Other people may say the opposite. But anyways, I would be all for trying to encourage a teacher or two that at least I know from the past, to at least consider, going through that training and pursuing possibly getting accredited to teach an AP class. So.
I will add, at one time we had AP in all of the 4 core areas, it's not AP for the history course that I taught, but it was honors, and they got either IU credit or LMC credit. So we had it, and they were dynamic, and that eliminates some of the concerns about those higher level achieving students. We have to make Buchanan High School the flagship, and everyone wants to come to Buchanan because we've got all of these dynamic programs, and they start with kindergarten and pre-K, and they'll just keep coming, and they won't go to Niles. I hope.
Wow. Very good. All right. Good job. Moving on to J3, Parent Advisory Committee.
Okay. So we held our Parent Advisory Committee meeting. I'll call it our first official one. We did have one at the beginning of the school year, February 11th. So we had 20 people who signed up, and that included our district team that attended. 18 actually showed up. So it was a good, probably 2 hours plus meeting. We started off with letting my team, the district team, give an overview and updates in their department. So I invited Phil from technology, and Phil is in everybody's meeting pretty much. Phil in technology, Mark with curriculum, and then I had Mark Fry as well from the athletic department. Those 3 were chosen because in the minutes from the meetings prior to, those were 3 areas that were constantly coming up. And I wanted to make sure our department leads in those areas were able to give updates and share information with the parents. And it was so much so that helpful that Mark Fry being there kind of alleviated all of the issues and addressed all of the issues that were listed in the parent concerns from the years prior. So kudos to Mark Fry, for what he's done and what he's been able to do during his time of being the BBA instructor, the CTE director, as well as the athletic director and a football coach. So he's juggling all of that. We were able to address that. And then Phil alleviated a lot of concerns too regarding the website, just reassuring parents that we are working on it, giving them some tidbits and information, very, very helpful. And with Mark, we had a very long discussion around curriculum and instruction and programming. And like I said, and I won't keep beating it around advanced placement and also supports for our students who need additional because of challenges or shortfalls. So we are addressing those. We ended, because the meeting did go longer, we're trying to figure out how to make our time more efficient. So we're dividing ourselves into two subgroups. One will address curriculum, instruction, and programming. And then the other will address marketing. So I continue to go around whenever I speak and talk about, number one, our loss this year. Our loss this year, it is all due to the pandemic. We have no data around to show how you recover from this type of loss within our district. And granted, the governor is working towards including a budget line item that addresses district decline in enrollment, kind of one-time offerings. We want to make sure that we're positioning ourselves to grow enrollment over a long time. So when we talk about schools of choice and we talk about our neighboring districts that do attract our students, what are we going to do to get them back? What are we going to do to attract other students from outside of our district? So that group will have a marketing group as well. And I'll attribute that idea to Stacy Martin, who kind of got us organized a little bit during that meeting. And then we're also going to meet as a whole group just 4 times a year. And I had dates outlined for that, not dates, but just like months, where we're going to meet 4 times a year. And our next one will be in April or May. And then from there, within that, the subcommittees will then meet and then give updates to the bigger group. And pretty much outside of the longer discussions, those are the big tidbits that we actually came away from that meeting with. Very, very good dialogue. Also, other thing is Jeannie Brackett, she will be our reporter. And then Katie Shelton will continue with the Buchanan Buzz. So as they get the official notes out, that information will go to the Buchanan Buzz, and then we'll place it once we launch our Facebook page, but they'll also get it out too. So.
Okay. Very good.
Trish, will we receive those minutes from Jenny?
Yes. Yeah, she'll get them to me. And so what we decided within that meeting that she'll get them to me, and then there'll be one person who will get them out to the board and then also to the other committee members.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. All right. Very good. All right. All right. Question and comments from board members.
I'm going to try to be short and sweet, but I have a few. One, I heard from several parents, they appreciated the notice for the snow day ahead of time so they could plan. Also, I know that that's not always feasible and that's not how it usually works. So it was appreciated, and I saw it on social media a couple times too. So just wanted to say thank you for that. I attended an Ottawa Title I meeting. I just wanted to give kudos to Stacy Dennison, Laura Hinkle, Wendy Murphy, and Miss Trigg was on that call. But I got really good information for not only me for my child, but they also sent home a ton of stuff with the questions that I asked. So they actually took notes and then they sent home everything that I asked questions on. So, and I was only by phone because of my location. So it was just really appreciative that they provided good information to all parents. Unfortunately, not a lot of parents showed up, but it was great information and I appreciated it. So also wanted to say a big thank you to Buchanan Christian Church for a very nice appreciative note to all staff and board members, and then also a nice little gift certificate for the Union Coffee House. So just wanted to say thank you. And I saw that a couple times on social media by our staff, and it was just greatly appreciated to be thought of. And then I wanted to say congrats to our staff and to Barry and Risa, but just talking with Miss Robinson, with our staff getting the COVID shot or the vaccine first. We are ahead of the game in Berrien County. A lot of neighboring districts and counties are upset that they are not where we are at. I wanted to say that just talking with Miss Robinson, it was well planned out. It was, they had leeway for some of the bumps in the road that might have come, but I just want to say thank you for the staff and stuff for, getting that done. And then last is maple syrup camp starting. So I am the representative for the school farm, and I think we have, it's difficult, obviously, because that is an activity where we need a lot of volunteers, but due to COVID, that is not allowed right now. So Mr. Nixon is trying to make sure that there is enough help with farm board members. And then I think he might have put something out to the school board, or to our board, but if not, but also staff, just trying to reach out to some of our staff to get the extra help. But he's got most of it planned, and for dates for tapping, you don't think about it with all the snow, but actually they tap in the middle of the freezing snow cold. And then, for the cooking and the camp and stuff is, they have rain dates and stuff like that, but with the different classes that will come out and do that. And I appreciate that they're still doing those, because I think that is a huge, we talked about in-person learning and just different activities to kind of get us through a very crazy, time with the distancing and, not maybe being able to do some of the stuff, but they're still doing that. So, but maple syrup camp is starting. And so just wanted to say, well wishes from the nature gods for that. Sun, lots of sun and cold.
Okay. Very good. Any other comments or questions from board members?
I have one quick comment. I just wanted to thank the administrators and the coaches for the sudden change in making seasons work. I know that means a lot to a lot of kids, and the extracurricular activities are important. So I appreciate it. I know my daughter appreciates it too. So thank you.
Okay.
I have just one comment, just because it's come up a couple times today, and I guess I just assumed, but we haven't really talked about this SAT thing in the formal board setting, other than agreeing to do the crowdfunding. Just in case anybody asks any of you, make sure that you definitively tell them that this is costing Buchanan schools $0, that I personally, as a board member, am making $0 in profit off of doing this class. I think the message is out there for most people, but I have gotten the question a few times this week, and I just want to make sure that nobody thinks there's any kind of conflict of interest, or that, hey, Scott's been elected to the board, now he's trying to profit from his position. That's anywhere but what I'm trying to do in this particular case. And that all of the money that people are donating, like I sent a post out today, MEMIC, the Hagen Agency, MEMIC Insurance gave a very generous donation to the SAT Prep Fund for what we're trying to do. All of that money that's going to Gateway is being used to either pay for materials for this year or in future years, or to, give incentives to the kids, for refreshments or copying costs or all of that stuff. And that none of it is going, that neither the school nor myself or my company are making any profit off of this, just in case anybody asks. So just wanted to get that out there on the public record.
Okay. Very good. All right. And I think last Tuesday on that half day, we had a number of our teachers that got the first vaccination shots, I think. So that's also a plus there and things. All right. Our next board meeting actually is tomorrow. It's a special meeting. This is just part of one of the requirements that we have to do as a board regarding superintendent evaluation stuff. So tomorrow at 6. And with that, we are adjourned. Right.
Good night.
We'll see you guys.
Thanks, everybody.